You're continuing to listen to the Super League pod coming up in part 2 of episode 164. We get right into your views and your feedback as we bring you our season review show.
Went a bit smoother than the the intro to the part 1.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. It did go a bit smoother, didn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent.
We're on it.
Is there going to be any outtakes at the end of these?
So this part of the show...
Oh, is this it? Right, yeah. Great stuff. Carry on then.
So this part of the show is where we go team by team through the Super League. We're going to drop in the audio reviews we've had, which was for most of the teams. A couple missing. But we'll still talk about
the internet in Leigh. I'm sorry, we've not really had much.
Well, it's
Leigh.
The whole Wigan borough.
We've not had Leigh love, really, have we, this year? So
we did get some Wigan people saying, "Well, Mark's just going to say it anyway. So what's the point of hearing me say what Mark's just going to say?"
Which is fair, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah.
But we're going to put ourselves on the clock as well, so that we don't unduly bias ourselves in terms of any one particular team. And there's plenty of people that did get in touch. Fan predictions, though, because we had some prior to the start of the season, didn't we?
Well, we'll just revisit what came up at the start of the season, see how we all did, before we laugh at our own predictions when we go through each single team. So, 12% of all the people who voted at the start of the season predicted that Hull would retain the Cup. Only 2 of the listeners that did weren't Hull fans, though. But still, optimism, and they were right to be optimistic.
Well, there you go, yeah.
Only 2 listeners predicted that Leeds will win the grand final. I bet one of them was Rich Wilkinson, because he's ridiculous.
Be Rich and Dom, won't it?
Yeah. Luke Gale had been the 3rd favourite amongst our predictions for the Steve Prescott Man of Steel Awards. I think John Bateman was the favourite, and obviously the unexpected length of time he was out of his shoulder injury certainly damaged his credentials. 56% of prediction voters were on the mark with Hull KR getting promoted back to Super League this year. Tom, you were one of those, so well done.
Thank you.
That was the start of your stellar year of predictions.
Well,
Strong year.
I only edged you out by a few games, to be fair. So it's there's a fag paper between us over a season, isn't there?
On a sadder note for you, 61% of voters foresaw Bradford going down, and 30% of voters thought Oldham would join them.
There you go.
So well done to the 30% who went with Oldham, because that was a good call.
Yeah.
Toronto and Barrow were the top 2 picks for League One promotion from our pre-season voters, and Tom, you leading the way again. You predicted both of those to get promoted.
I think lots of people thought Toronto would go up, and Barrow as an organisation were geared up for a big push this year, weren't they? So,
well, don't do yourself down. I had Whitehaven, so
but that was close then, wasn't it? So again, those are the fine margins that separated us in terms of the decisions, weren't they? So it was we were close. So we're going to do this alphabetically, aren't we? In no particular.
We are.
I was going to say no particular.
In that particular order.
In that particular order, yeah, exactly. So people know where they can kind of listen in from. So we start with Castleford Tigers this year, Mark.
Yeah, so we'll just run through that. Obviously, the predictions for the league place, I predicted them to be 4th at the end of the season, so kind of sizzle out in the semi-finals. You had them 5th. So just missing out.
Yeah.
But as we know, they were first in the top 8. They won the League Leaders' Shield. They were the grand final runners-up. So an excellent season for the Castleford Tigers.
It was.
In the Cup, we both had them actually as runners-up. So for them to only get to the quarterfinals, it wasn't so great. But we obviously expected something from them, and they definitely delivered. And there's no better person to have the audio review from for this side than Fat Boy Rob.
Hello to all the SLP listeners. This is Fat Boy Rob, and this is my 2017 season review for the real champions Castleford Tigers, February to September only. We soon got over the disappointment of losing the snake with the capture of Super Zach Hardacre to add to our other 2 main signings, Greg Eden and Jesse Seni Lafayette. They all had great seasons, especially Jesse, whose enthusiasm really lifted the whole club. That man would really celebrate a good fart. February and March, we had home wins against Leigh, Leeds, #5 in a row, Catalans and Huddersfield, and scored 40 points in each. We also had away wins at Warrington, where the back-to-back try trend started, and Widnes, where we had a ropey start. Our first defeat came at Salford, when we lost players early on and couldn't get on top in the wet conditions. April started and ended with wins against the Pies. The highlight was Jesse smashing through several Wigan players to score under the sticks in front of the Cas fans, and the 54-4 hammering. Wigan were lucky to get 4, but at least Mark got a pint brought for him. We also had another 40-plus performance against Wakefield, but suffered our only back-to-back defeats against Hull and Saints. At Hull we missed Gale, and I thought we were unlucky against Saints. We had 5 out of 5 wins in May, starting with an excellent performance at Huddersfield with the England players away. It also included a big win against Saints in the Cup with 4 back-to-back tries, another win against Leeds at Magic, #6 in a row, and a very lucky win against Widnes. Not forgetting Leigh away, where Beaumont blamed the ref for a 38-0 defeat. The only disappointment in May was losing Rangi to his Demons and our choice of pubs in Newcastle. Pub ball really is a shithole. We then went undefeated in the league for the rest of the regular season, starting with a win for the reserves against Saints and ending with a rare win in France. The highlights were yet another win at Headingley, #7 in a row, Eden's 5 tries against Wyre and a last-minute drop goal against Wakey. We had a scare with Eden's injury, but he would be back. We did lose in the Cup against Hull, but it was a great day out and I got to meet the maiden clan. The Super 8 started with a defeat at home against Saints, which was the only time in the real season we didn't turn up. A win the following week at Salford all but confirmed the title, but the real party was a week later when we beat Wakey 45-10 to confirm it. Cass are the champions after 91 years and only 10 years after being in the second tier. What a night. The rest of the season was meaningless really, but there was still time to beat Leeds again, #8 in a row, and end Wigan's season without Gale after his appendix scare and Roberts. I'm not going to cover the playoffs. I don't really give a shit what anyone says, but the team finishes 10 points clear and scores over 950 points, then they are the real champions. Other than the playoffs, my only regret is not getting Tyler Cassfan on Instagram. I'd like to end by saying I hope Cass stick by Zach Hardacre. We wouldn't have won it without him, and to thank Mark and Tom for an excellent show, as well as the rest of the SLP family. It was a great season and we had some great meetups. #I love the Hodge.
Okay, Rob, that was brilliant, mate. And also what was brilliant were the other 2 emails that you sent us with your cocked up introductions included as well. So that's good to see.
It took him a couple of days to get the suitable level of peace and quiet so that we could not only hear him without interruption but also hear his chair rocking gently in the background.
I would have quite liked to have heard other members of the Ordish clan just like heckling him while he was trying to put it together. But thank you, Rob. I think you pretty much summed up everything that Castleford fans are feeling.
Yeah,
really.
all Castleford fans believe that the grand final doesn't count, which is, one of those things.
But we looked at Castleford at the start of the season, and you and I both kind of predicted similar positions for them, didn't we? Shall we talk about other people's reviews before we...
Yeah, we'll just throw in, because we obviously on the form, there was a bit of room, in the voting form this year, there was a bit of room for people to throw a few comments in if they didn't feel comfortable doing an audio review.
Yeah.
Not that it was actively encouraged, but, we wanted to give everyone a chance. So, we had quite a few, obviously, from Cass. So Tyler Cassfan said, first 30 games brilliant, semi-final nerve-wracking, grand final never showed up.
There you go.
Peter Osborne said, brilliant, disappointment.
Yeah.
Luke Williams said, swept the league and made the grand final, best season ever.
True.
Kev Straw said, the best Cass side I have ever seen, watching them for nigh on 50 years. Stephen Smith is in the Fat Boy Rob camp, top of the league, champions in my book. Simon Murray said, best season ever until the grand final, for my club anyway, 39 years a fan.
Yeah.
And then Ryan Bullock said, unbelievable, fantastic, classy cast, let down in the end by Zach.
There you go.
I
think that's an accurate assessment of the season, really. I mean, when we looked at them at the start of the year, we both had them sort of in that 4th and 5th place. I don't think anybody expected them to perform quite as well as they did, although I think people might have seen a version of that coming given the progress that they've made under Darryl Powell and the recruitment that they'd undertaken. I think they also benefited to some degree from the fact that there were other teams that we might have picked above them that had very poor years, which allowed them to rise to the top perhaps higher than we were anticipating, but they were fabulous. They were absolutely fabulous all season apart from one game. Realistically, Castleford were the best side in the competition. They're not the competition winners, and those are the rules. But in terms of who you would go out to watch as a neutral fan and who provide the best advertisement for our sport, Castleford Tigers did that head and shoulders above the rest all year.
There was a spell in the season where it was just, you were hoping that they'd somehow get the Cass game on Sky.
Yeah, precisely.
When they had the ability to swap that game for the Warrington game rather than Wigan against Widnes, which was obviously going to be dire.
Yeah.
That worked out well for Cass, for Sky, for the season, because it set the tone.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
What more do you have to say about?
Well, the big question, to be honest with you, there's not much more that I can say about Castleford that hasn't been said in terms of the kind of rugby league they've played, the commitment they've all shown to one another. The thing that I take out of this season now is, can they go a step further, and will they learn from Old Trafford this year and try and keep the majority of that side together, because one would expect that they'll need a new fullback, and kick on. And that's going to be the next step for them, isn't it? Because they've progressed well under Powell for a number of years now. I think they've already brought in some players for next year that I think will add some depth to the squad, if not necessarily fully command a first team place. So the question in my mind is, can they kick on and go one step further in 2018? And
is there any of the players, that we haven't picked up awards or mentioned in the awards that you think maybe you would want to talk about?
Rob talked about Jesse Lafayette, and I know he's picked up awards and has been talked about in nominations and what have you, but I think that whole Castleford pack need a good rap on the shoulder, because they have provided that platform for the backs to excel and play some wonderful rugby league. And the fact that there's never really been a let-up in their interchange allowed them to create this platform and play this exciting brand of rugby league. So that's who I would single out, that group.
Yeah, well, I mean, they scored 200 plus more points than anyone else, 25 plus more tries, they had 30 plus more breaks than anyone else. So, they were massively the best attack. As well as that, they had the second best for points against. They held their opponent to the fewest metres per game of any team. They had the most positive impact plays and the fewest negative impact plays. So they were just high quality all over. Only Hull used fewer players than Castleford's 29. So that's, quite good for them. And whilst not an exact science, Cass appear to have been able to field their first choice side most often, because the average jersey number of the players used over the season was the lowest in the league, 11.8. Now, if you used 1 to 17 in your squad each week, you would have an average of 9. So that gives you a barometer of how able they were to select the first choice team most often. Mm-hmm. So no wonder they were quite consistent, but you still wouldn't expect them to be quite that brilliant.
No.
That they were. In terms of individual players, I expected Luke Gale to be crucial, but with the Man of Steel award like he was, I do think he was better supported this year by surrounding players than maybe he was last year. Because last year, if you remember, he had an absolute ridiculously high number of assists.
Yeah.
But this year, like Hardacre, Shenton, particularly those two, were able to work into the passing plays to create the actual tries a lot of the time and take some of the pressure off Gale. McShane was another player who took an important role of doing that. Another player I want to focus a bit on, Tom, is Mike McMeekan. Only Ben Masilla had more back row tries than McMeekan's 9. No back rower had more assists than his 11. He ranked high up in his position for carries, meters, busts, breaks, offloads, however you want to dress those up, whether it's per game or total. He was a huge attacking weapon for Cass, and I really liked watching that like they give him kick-off carries and stuff like that, stuff you wouldn't normally see. Meanwhile, like Alex Foster, Oliver Holmes, they were usually his partner on the other side in the second row, and they fared really well in things like tackle success and low error rates and stuff like that to counterbalance the kind of dynamism that was coming on the other side, because they had the attacking players around them with Hardacre, Shenton and Eden, whereas McMeekan was kind of the attacking focus a little bit down that side.
Well, his combinations with Webster became really important, didn't they?
Exactly, yeah. Finally on Cass for me, obviously Eden scored a load of tries and that was great, and for him. But Minikin on the other wing was great too, if quite not as explosive in terms of the scores. He featured in the top 5 for wingers in loads of stats: tries, assists, breaks, meters, offloads. He was also putting in a lot of the work. He was one of the top tackling wingers. He also did little wrong with one of the best error rates of any winger. So all round, I think that was a great breakthrough year for him, getting that starting number on his back, which is something we spoke about right at the start of the year.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's the Castleford Tigers then. So let's move out of West Yorkshire and down to the south of France, Mark, and talk about the Catalan Dragons season.
Yes, so We both predicted them to finish 7th in the top 8 by the end of the reckoning, but actually they finished 5th in the qualifiers and squeaked through with being the £1 million game winners. We also predicted them to have a reasonable run in the Cup, but they were out in the first round that they played in round 6 of the Cup. We have a fan review in